Hey guys, my name's Colin and this is my review of the New Balance Fresh Foam Hierro V7 after 100 kilometers. So right off the bat, I'll tell you that this is one of the best updates that I've ever seen in a trail running shoe, but we'll get into that with the review, and let's start things off with the fit. So these fit true to size. I'm a size 10.5 in almost all my sneakers. This is a size 10.5 and it fits great. The biggest thing you're gonna notice on the V7s is this kind of squared off toe box, which is extremely roomy compared to other regular width trail running shoes. So much so that I almost would prefer a little bit more of a narrow racer style fit in the toe. But for most people, I think they're really going to like this wider toe box. I have a pretty normal width foot with a slightly wider forefoot, so this sneaker is actually built almost perfectly for my foot. There seems to be enough room in the forefoot for my toes to splay out a bit. I didn't have any issues with heel slippage, and the midfoot lockdown felt good once I was able to dial in the fit a bit. But overall, the fit of the Hierro 7 is really nice, really comfortable, and I think people that are always wanting a little bit of a wider forefoot fit in their trail runners will really like this shoe. So next up is the traction. So the traction pattern here on the V7s is probably the biggest improvement from the last two iterations. One of the guys that I run with actually loves the V6, and he's gone through a few pairs of those, and I actually ran in the V5s. The V5 and V6 actually shared the exact same traction pattern. So the lug depth and lug placement of the last two iterations of the Hierro were actually placed a little too close together in my opinion, and it was a little bit of an odd design because it seemed to cause a little more slippage in wet and muddy conditions, and I didn't find that it really gripped into some of the more gnarly terrain that I enjoy running on. But this newer traction pattern, they've switched it all up completely. They've spread out the lugs a bit and they've gone to a deeper lug. So this is a 4.5 millimeter lug compared to the 3.5 millimeter lug on the prior two versions. And even though it's a little muddy here, you can see the Vibram logo. So this is Vibram rubber all throughout the outsole. So you know this is going to be sticky and trustworthy in a lot of those messy conditions. So even though New Balance considers this a road to trail option, I really do think that this has gone more trail specific with this version. Just with the increased lug depth and the better spread of the lugs in general, this shoe can handle really gnarly terrain that I like to go on. I'm a big fan of this traction pattern. It's like night and day compared to the last two iterations. They did this little tail flap on the last two versions as well, and I don't really understand why they put that there. I find it's just something to maybe get caught on roots and rocks on the trails. I wouldn't mind if they just got rid of that completely. So next up is the cushion. So the cushion on the Hierro 7 is just a big slab of their Fresh Foam X foam compound. So it's super comfortable. I would consider this a pretty max cush shoe. Although compared to something like the Speedgoat 5 or 4, this midsole is maybe a little bit more dense, but it's still super soft, super comfortable. There's no rock plate in this midsole. There's enough foam, I'd say, to protect your foot underneath. And although this forefoot stack is enough to protect you from some of the roots and rocks, it's also small enough that you can still kind of feel some of that underfoot, which I personally actually like. It never came to the point where there was anything underfoot that was actually painful. It was just enough that I could feel a little bit. But overall, especially if you already know what the Fresh Foam feels like, it's just super comfy, super cushy, really great option for the trails. So next up is the upper. So the upper of the Hierro 7s is mostly mesh with some synthetic overlays here around the midfoot and a little extra support here around the heel. It does have a little classic pull tab here, and I don't know if you can actually see here, but it is a gusseted tongue. Also a good amount of toe protection around the toe box. I did get these fully submerged in water a few times, and this upper definitely sucks up water pretty good and doesn't drain the best. But the upper overall is just so darn comfortable that that's something I think I'm just willing to live with when it comes to this shoe. I am a little worried after 100K, it hasn't actually happened yet, but as you can see here, this little toe action in this area of the mesh where it's kind of creasing, and it's happening over here on this side as well. I feel like there could be some tearing and ripping there eventually, but it hasn't happened yet, and I've got 100Ks into these already, so maybe that's just something to be aware of. So next up is the weight. So the weight of this shoe is another huge improvement compared to the prior version. When I ran in the V5, it felt more like just a big chunk of a sneaker underfoot. It felt like too much shoe underneath, but I haven't felt that at all in this shoe because they've shaved off, I think, around 2 ounces compared to the V5 at least. So this is 10.5 ounces for a men's size 9. So a huge improvement when it comes to weight. And next up is the drop. So this is just an 8mm drop from heel to forefoot. I do kind of wish that they had just gone full trail runner with these, since they did drop the weight, increase the lug depth, spread out the lugs, and made them better in more gnarly conditions. I think it would have been cool if they maybe increased the forefoot cushion a little bit and made that a 4mm drop compared to an 8mm. I think that little change in this shoe would have just made this one of the best trail shoes of the year. All right, and the final verdict of the New Balance Hierro V7 is, I think you can tell that I'm a huge fan of these. I've been kind of looking for a Speedgoat 4 replacement, since the Speedgoat 5 is just not one of my favorites, and this is definitely up there with a possible replacement. It has that Vibram traction, increased lug depth that's really sticky. It has a super comfortable stack of Fresh Foam X. The upper is really comfortable as well. It took a minute maybe just to dial in the fit a bit in my foot, but once you get that dialed in, you can really bomb down hills. The 8mm drop actually does feel pretty good when it comes to climbing, and the durability has held up so far through 100K, but so far I really don't have any complaints about this shoe. It's just a great performer, and I think a lot of people are going to love running in the Hierro 7. So that's about it, guys. That's my review of the New Balance Hierro V7. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.